I wanted to do a quick video on the report about CollegeAD saying that Charlotte's search is down to 5 finalists, which is 2 current athletic directors and 3 P4 deputies. For this video, I did a lot of research on who I think those deputies would be. I did do research on who I think the sitting athletic directors are. I would be surprised if there's any athletic director out there that fits what they're looking for that would go to Charlotte. Just based on they're looking for someone very innovative and looking at all these things about modernizing the athletic department. And I think if you have someone that is doing that, maybe it's from an FCS school, but I always try to compare institutions, and at least in the conference, and I looked at the similar conferences. I looked at the MAC because the Chancellor Gaber was the former president at Toledo. She did not hire Mike Hill, so this is her first AD search as the AD or as the Chancellor at Charlotte. So I tried to find some comparables, and I just didn't come down to any athletic director. I think it's not going to be someone that is more of traditional AD, and I don't think it's going to be. There's not really a lot of young up-and-comer athletic directors that are in a position to leave for the Charlotte job. So it would surprise me a little bit. At the same time, if they're finalists, then very much could be. Now, I want to focus on the deputies. And what is the research I did on this? So I've heard from people that they love the more interviews and everything, but they wanted me to do some of these individual things. And I will start doing more of these for the openings. I'm going to do a video reaction to some of the recent changes, as well as an update on all the openings. You can find it on the D1 AD hiring trends and tracker on my website. And I'm also going to do a very deep dive and an HEA briefing report and video on Syracuse. And I also want to talk about soon in a video about what the search firms, how they've been changing, because CSA and Parker have been doing a lot of changes, and I really like, and their approaches are changing, and I really like to see what is going to happen out of the Oklahoma search with Jake Rosenberg, and I think that'll be interesting. Now, let's get to these deputies. So I'm looking at similar institutions of where Charlotte's trying to go, similar cities and locations as Charlotte and where they want to be. So you always, when you're like a higher education analyst, you always want to look at aspirational peers and institutional peers. So who are our peers right now and who are we trying to be? I think with Charlotte, the thing that reminds me the most is that group of schools that ended up going to the Big 12. So let's get into the deputy searches. I think there's 3, and I'm only giving myself 3 because that's what the CollegeAD reported. I would not be surprised if one of these 3 becomes the athletic director at Charlotte. And they're people that I've kind of studied from afar. I don't know any of them. I don't know their aspirations. You can only assume that they want to be athletic directors soon. And the common thread here is they're not going to be athletic directors at the school that they're at because their leaders aren't going to leave anytime soon, and they've all put in enough time at these places. So let's get into who I think this might be. The first one I'm looking at, if I'm doing this search, is hoping that Kevin White, the deputy athletic director at Clemson, is looking to maybe leave to become an athletic director. Let me talk a little bit about Kevin. So he's basically the number 2 in command at Clemson, and he's been there 4 years now. And Graham Neff is not going anywhere. If Graham wanted to leave, I think he would have been the Georgia Tech athletic director. Graham seems locked in to Clemson for a long time. But think about Kevin. Kevin's been there with him, and Kevin's gotten to basically be the COO of this athletic department of everything they've been doing. This, you could argue, is one of the more aggressive and innovative athletic departments in the country. And so if you're Charlotte, you're thinking, looking down a little bit south to South Carolina, and you're looking to see if Kevin White is interested in this position. And he has an impressive background before Clemson as well, in roles at Northwestern and SMU. The other thing I'll point out is he is a North Carolina Chapel Hill alum, not the exact same as UNC Charlotte, but having some familiarity in North Carolina, I think could go a long way. I just have always kind of thought of Clemson as being on the cutting edge of things. And let's just talk a little bit about his background. I pulled up his biography just to see what they've been doing. There's some interesting things in it, and you have to kind of give and take of what people decide to put in their athletic bios. But he is a connection point for the Board of Trustees. I thought that was interesting. He is also, it says, plays a key role in athletic department's relationship with university leadership. And I think it's impressive that he has a lot of his hands in the fundraising arm still, a lot of facility projects. So when you think about this, there's just a lot going on at Clemson really in the last 5 years of changes to college athletics that Graham Neff has led. But at the same time, Kevin's been there right there with him, and Graham's not leaving. So maybe this opens up Kevin for trying to find the right opportunity. And was the Deputy AD and COO at Northwestern, and then the COO at SMU. He's also had some good sport administrator experience with basketball especially, and has had some championship level basketball, you could say. So he is from Chattanooga, Tennessee, so not from the North Carolina area, but the fact that he did go to UNC Chapel Hill was interesting. And then he has ties to Atlanta. So just always trying to figure out who has ties where for future jobs. But I do think that this is an opportunity that if he wanted it, he would be a finalist. And let's move on to who I think could be next. Another person I'm looking for, UCF Deputy Athletic Director Chris McFarlane, Deputy AD of Strategy and Competitive Success. UCF has always been one of the more innovative higher education institutions that we think about. And you go back to the Danny White days. So Chris McFarlane has been there for 5+ years and taken a lead on most of the changes happening in college athletics. He also had an impressive background at Pitt before UCF, where he was part of the kind of leadership of this $300 million campaign for athletics. I always kind of find UCF and Charlotte as more comparable than maybe some people do. So Charlotte has about 30,000 students. UCF is, I think north of 70 now. But I think about the innovative look at their campuses. They're not in downtown. I mean, obviously Charlotte is a lot bigger than Orlando, but Charlotte campus is not in downtown Charlotte. And so they are a little bit spread out a little bit from the city. I just think it's an interesting comparison. I think the Pitt comparison too, as an ACC school, will help there. And so I think Chris has been there long enough that he's put in a lot of work in an innovative athletic department that went from that group of 5 to that Power 4 school. And I think it's just it'd be an interesting opportunity if he was interested in doing that. I think it's a place that sticks out for a chancellor of when they're trying to think like-minded institutions athletically. And I think that could be more of an interesting deputy AD candidate. Now the last one I have on here really could be anyone at this department. Cincinnati Deputy AD Anthony DeFino, External Relations and the Chief Revenue Officer. I think Anthony is on the cutting edge too of being in at Cincinnati athletics. I think that these are prime examples of what Charlotte's trying to do. And I've been to Charlotte campus, I've been to Cincinnati campuses, each probably 3 times in the last 5 years. I think Cincinnati is the best case study for what Charlotte's trying to be. Outside of maybe USF of what they're building, but I'm talking about a school that's already kind of gotten to that next level. Cincinnati, they've completely modernized their athletic department the last several years. I think that's what Charlotte's going to try to do, or at least that's my speculation based on moving on from their AD and then hiring turnkey. And if they weren't going to hire someone external, you're going to be looking at someone innovative that can manage that, the new stadium, that project, and there's going to be lots of other projects that they're going to try to grow, trying to get more people to the games. And I think that this could be kind of a slam dunk hire. Once again, John Cunningham isn't leaving anytime soon, similar to Graham Neff at Clemson and Terry Majer at UCF. They're not leaving. So if we assume these people want to be athletic directors, then they're not going to be the ADs at their current places because they're not going to be seeing a retirement, and I don't think anyone from a Power 4 job is going to leave for another job. And so that is just kind of my take on that. Now, the only thing here is he is a Syracuse, New York native, and he worked at Syracuse Athletics earlier in his career. Will he be on the short list or want to be on the short list for the Syracuse AD job? That would be an interesting wrinkle in this. So that leads me to this kind of final reflection of the Charlotte search. These are 3 deputies that, like I said, I don't know if they are interested in it. I don't know if Charlotte is interested in them. But if you look at the institutions they're at, they're not going to be the AD there, and they're on that trajectory, and they have the luxury of being at very innovative schools. And if you read the profile of the Charlotte job at Turnkey, they mention they want an innovative thinker who is intellectually curious and thoughtful about the future of college athletics, and possess the foresight of not just where we are today, but most importantly, where we are going tomorrow as it pertains to conference realignment, innovation, programming, and growth opportunities. And when you think about these schools, I think that they've all done that. But it's just kind of an interesting thing. I don't think there's going to be a current athletic director taking this job. I could totally be wrong. I do think that they are looking for a newer administrator that is ready to be innovative. And to be quite honest, I'm surprised that they're even sticking with someone in college athletics. I thought that this might be someone from a professional area in the Charlotte sports scene. There are a lot of pro sports in in North Carolina. So I'm actually just surprised that they're doing this, but I don't think it's going to be a current athletic director. I think it's going to be a deputy AD, and it'll be interesting to see who it's going to be. So thank you for watching this. I hope everyone that I mentioned in here is okay that I mentioned them. I don't do any sources. I just try to look at the profiles of the people. And so maybe it's not these 3, but I'd be shocked if it's not someone with a similar profile of the institution, their body of work, and where Charlotte Athletics is trying to go. If the AD Insight search videos and the interviews have been helpful for your career and just your interest, please consider leaving a tip for Higher Ed Athletics. You can see a link with Stripe on higheredathletics.com at the bottom of the website or here in the show notes of this content.